Oh man, these bells are so heavy. I mean, don't get me wrong, Penny. Notre Dame's a really beautiful place. The bells are really beautiful. But you could see why I needed you here to help me ring these bells for me to start my Hunchback of Notre Dame remake discussion with Gaby. Well, let's ring them again so we can start our discussion. Ready?
You like my background?
Yeah? Oh, it's Quasimodo! Cool. Yeah, because speaking of Quasimodo, we're here today to discuss the word that Disney is going to be remaking the Hunchback of Notre Dame, which I'm personally excited for. I know some people out there are more skeptical. Gaby, you yourself I would say you sound optimistically cautious, or cautiously
Yes,
optimistic.
I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. I won't say there's no possibility of it being good because obviously there's a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just worried because of how I've seen a lot of these movies go out. I myself have seen two of the live action remakes. Um, I've seen Pete's Dragon, which I know that's not like a live action remake, but it's just a remake. And Beauty and the Beast.
Hmm. So, but again, you kind of saw, because I heard Pete's Dragon it's not like one of the worst, and Beauty and the Beast I saw.
See, I see more of a problem with something like Beauty and the Beast because there was already a lot of stuff that already worked for the movie. Yes, we all cracked the jokes, Oh, what's it, what do they call Stockholm syndrome, bestiality, what have you? But of course, it's all fun and games, right?
Yeah.
Uh, in itself, the movie is really well done as far as the original animated film goes. Um, was the live action remake good? Yeah, but it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, no, not at all. Definitely wasn't as good as the first, I would say.
Yeah, Pete's Dragon, what I really liked about Pete's Dragon was because it was one of those lesser known movies, though a lot of really diehard Disney fans know about it and probably even watched it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the general public just had probably forgotten that it existed or never even heard of it to begin with. So I thought that that was more of a good move, and they brought in Lindsay Sterling along with another artist to do music for it, which I thought was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it could either be one or the other.
Yeah. But yeah, by the way, my thoughts on that, I've seen Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella. I thought they were basically okay. Beauty and the Beast, I don't really remember the songs from the remake. Aside from Evermore, Josh Groban's cover of Evermore was all right, but the movie itself was just okay. It wasn't bad. Like there's people out there like I don't know how to pronounce his name, Jim Israel. He does movie reviews, and Doug Walker like make it sound like it's the one of the worst things they've ever seen, and I'm just like, no, it's not even bad, just not nowhere near as good as the original. But in my case, the interesting thing about Hunchback was I always took it as it was one of the very few Disney animated movies that I thought if they ever remade it, I would at least be down for it, and it seemed to be that way too. Because you were gonna say something?
No, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That to me too.
because it's funny if you go look up the songs from Hunchback, which by the way, Hunchback songs are, in my opinion, some of the best is from the Disney Renaissance, and you'll see a lot of people in the comments who are like, "This is the one remake that needs to happen." And when the news came out, there was definitely people excited. Like, I definitely saw that on my Twitter. When I retweeted the story that said the remake was happening, there were definitely a lot of people who were like, yay! And liking the tweet. But there's also a sizable amount of people who are like, ugh, again, Disney? But yeah, I think for me, my excitement for the remake comes from just the fact that the original movie was really amazing. I mean, I think the story of Hunchback has been made into non-Disney live-action films in the past. The original story by Victor Hugo is, a literary classic, so, it's been, adapted many, many times before in both film and the stage. So, it's not like Disney did it once, nobody can do it ever again. That's, totally bogus. But also because I just saw there's, a lot of potential in a remake. Like, even if it's, like, I imagine, even if it's some, just seeing a lot of that imagery in live action and, a lot of Hunchback's really amazing songs. Not that, the songs in Beauty and the Beast were bad, but it's like, Hunchback is, like, easily has some of my favorite songs in the Disney Renaissance period. That's kind of more of where I'm coming from. I've heard these stage adaptations. I can't confirm this. Maybe some people in the comments who have seen the stage versions. I've read synopses of them, but from questionable sources, so I can't vouch for them. But I definitely feel, there's a lot potentially. I mean, definitely changes can be made. Maybe some of them more similar to the book, although I can't imagine them going all the way. But I just thought that, yeah, this sounds like a, decent an idea because the source material, and you kind of mentioned it, Gabby, it's kind of weird. Some people, sometimes forget to consider it as a Disney film.
Yeah, yeah. Even myself, I kind of just like forget about it every once in a while, and then I come back to it. And it's like, oh yeah, this movie is like super awesome. That has all this amazing music, and I haven't heard it in like ages.
Yeah, it's weird. Like when I was looking up, the songs from Hunchback, some are really great. Like Bells of Notre Dame, Hellfire is probably one of Disney's most infamous songs and out there. And even some of the lesser known songs I really like. Like, admittedly, remember that song, A Guy Like You, when the gargoyles are trying to, encourage Quasimodo?
Oh
I mean, yeah, it's
yeah.
totally inconsistent, yes, but I often like to listen to that, every once in a while. But when I was looking up Bells of Notre Dame on YouTube, somebody in the comments mentioned, basically saying, Disney is known for, like, Let It Go and Hakuna Matata, and here comes Hunchback, and the movie opens up with Frollo, cracking Quasimodo's skull, and I'm trying to drown him in a well. It's just like... Really? And
Yeah.
just like, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that, like, because like I saw Hunchback once as a kid, but it's one of those Disney movies that like really like grew on me as I got older, and it's like when you grow up and realize that it was just like, oh, that is one really dark way to
And
start.
here's the weird thing. I was a very squeamish kid, like extremely squeamish, and not to the point where like I would faint or anything, but I'd just be like, just like I couldn't see anything,
Yeah,
violence,
yeah.
anything. I watch Hunchback, and I get to that part, and I'm just like, oh, cool, they just killed his mom. Okay, that's a thing. Just completely unfazed about it. Which now that I come to think about it, I don't know how they did it, but apparently they did it right.
Uh-huh. I mean, obviously it's not done in like, extremely like, gruesome way. Like, there's not like, any like, they don't show like blood or gore, that kind of stuff. But it's just like, just the fact that, you see Frollo, like, just kick, and then, his mom is,
Oh yeah, and
it's
she's just
like,
out.
this is not like
you're-
off screen. So it's
Yeah, and you're like, she's dead. Like she
Yeah.
dead.
Mm-hmm.
Straight
Immediately,
up.
as a kid, I thought, "Uh-oh, is she dead?" I mean, because I saw, the Archdeacon, played by the late great David Ogden Stars, come out, and it's like, oh, see, Yuki, see Yukio. Well, they're like basically what he said. So it's just like, shoot.
And then, now I'm imagining like when he tells Frodo that, I just imagine the Morgan Freeman meme. It's like that was when he knew he'd fucked up.
Yeah, basically right around there. What were we, like, what were we getting on? But yeah, I know it's, weird to think in that way, but yeah, that's basically, yeah. Not that, Hunchback is like, all dark and gritty, like, it surprisingly manages to mix in a lot of the Disney antics, as well as getting to the really heavy stuff really well. I mean, I know there's people who really hate the gargoyles, and I'm kind of one of those people that were like, when you consider Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame, they're kind of a necessity. And me personally, I don't get annoyed by characters like really, really easily. There are times where
No.
like if they do get on my nerves, it's more of a like kind of a I'm just kind of gnashing my teeth, sort of
And
a
see,
thing.
for me, I'm like, oh, hey, you're cool. You're quirky like me.
Yeah.
Like I tend to, I actually tend to see myself in those kinds of characters, and then I just hear people talking in the sidelines like, he's so annoying. I hate their voice. And I'm here like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes, before I continue, maybe I should get into what little details we know about the live action film, because it is technically in development. This isn't like, oh, we're going to see it this coming Christmas. No, 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 no. It sounds like it's in the really early stages. So basically, all we know right now is that Tony Award winning playwright David Henry Huang is like penning the script, probably most known for the play M Butterfly, which I saw the movie M Butterfly, the one David Cronenberg directed. I'm not gonna like knock Huang for that. I think that movie's faults are more Cronenberg's, doing, in that it was kind of uncharted territory for him. So I'm not gonna knock him for that. And that the original songwriters for Hunchback, Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz, are going to write the songs. Fun fact: those two also did the songs for both Pocahontas and Enchanted. Which, it's funny how like I consider a lot of, when I look back at like Alan Menken's various collaborations over the years, like he's worked with most notably Howard Ashman on The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. He also worked with, I still can't remember, or the songwriter from Newsies, and I thought the songs were good. But it's funny when I consider, like, when I look at the songs he wrote with Stephen Schwartz. I mean, I'm just like, Pocahontas' songs are okay, Enchanted songs were okay, but it's like Hunchback, just from that movie, I'm just like, oh yeah, he's my favorite songwriter, because I get the kind of gist of it. Like, Schwartz writes these, like, really emotional, really dramatic pieces. I mean, he's also known for writing the songs in the movie The Prince of Egypt.
I oh, I'm looking up the songwriter, and I get two different names. I get for composer of Newsies, I get Alan Menken,
Yeah, that's
and
the
then
guy who did the music.
yeah, and then I get Jack Feldman.
Jack Feldman, that's correct. That's it. Yeah, that's the songwriter from Newsies. I also yeah, I really like the songs in Newsies.
Ooh, yeah, my bro is a big fan of Newsies.
Yeah, but in the case of Hunchback, I definitely think it's really cool. Like I said before, I feel that Schwartz and Menken, they're a really, really great duo together. I'm kind of hoping they don't do the thing where Schwartz didn't write the songs in the Beauty and the Beast remake, but in that particular remake, I thought the new songs they put in were kind of forgettable. Well, to be really honest, aside from Josh Groban's rendition of Evermore. But I'm kind of just hoping that Schwartz and Menken, maybe they can pull out some songs from the stage versions of Hunchback, because over the years, Disney, there have been like adaptations of the Disney film. Like there was a production in Berlin, there was an American version that came out. So maybe, they could pull some songs from there. What I was also hoping, maybe this will even be an opportunity for them to put, if you check out the credits for the 1996 Hunchback, there's a song that All For One sings called Someday, and oh my god, go let that song is like beautifully abstract. I'm just thinking, even if you're just putting it in just for the sake of different, that song is so powerful that I'm just like, yeah, find some way to put it in. If
Yeah,
actually
I
putting it
even
in the
got to hear
movie
it.
enough will be like, that would be
I even
so
got to
cool.
hear the version they made for the musical, and it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was I would definitely be interested if they incorporated it some way.
Hmm. Yeah, so definitely got the tools, but like I said before, I just hope they don't like write like super unnecessary songs, and hopefully, even though in general I thought the scene, I keep bringing up the Beauty and the Beast remake because Menken also worked on the songs in that remake, and I'm just like, when I look at the new songs, I'm just like, how did they go again? Like can sort of remember, but not really. Aside from Evermore, um, so I just hope that they just come up with some something that really some really good stuff. Especially in the case of Hunchback, I feel there's a lot of potential. They're two really talented people. Just make something that's worth the price of admission. Right.
That's basically what I asked for too.
Yeah. So another concern I was thinking, looking back on Hunchback, was I was honestly wondering what tone will this remake go for? If anything, in going back to the Beauty and the Beast remake, one of my bigger problems with it was I kind of felt the tone was a little inconsistent, especially in like the really cartoony, slapsticky scenes. It's weird because Beauty and the Beast, is has this kind of this sort of atmospheric, moody tone. But it's just something about the remake when it got cartoon. It just kind of took me out of it. Like I think of especially, when the enchanted objects fight the people at the
Oh yeah.
towards the end. I think of that scene where what was that thing that like beat beat the crap out of Rue's face or something like that. And I was just like, ugh,
I
this is
can't
really.
remember what it was.
But yeah, I'm
The
just
only
like,
thing I remember is the was it the is it a dresser?
or
The
something
one
like
that would
that.
always try to like it was always trying to keep from falling asleep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
she's
I
on
personally
she's
don't.
on the second level and then she wants to get together with the piano that's downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And so she comes up to the balcony
Mm-hmm.
and she's just like, ah! And she throws herself into, like, throws herself off the balcony and try to smash a whole bunch of people underneath her.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing I remember from that scene.
Yeah, I mean, once again I bring up tone because the way Hunchback was able to like gel with having its dark scenes, but having its more like comedic scenes, if anything, for comedic relief. I think of course we could talk about the gargoyles, but like some of the action scenes in the animated Hunchback were also enjoyably like goofy. Like I think of the scene when Esmeralda takes down the
Oh yeah.
guards, and even like the scene when Phoebus gets everyone together and they fight the guards at the end of the movie. That had their comedic. Like I think of the one guy Phoebus punches in the face and like his teeth just pop off, and the
Oh
guard
yeah.
makes that stupid face. And there's that gag like that pops up a couple times in the movie where there's like an old man who's like in a cage and he's like, I'm free, I'm free, and then he's caught again. Dang it. And then he gets
Oh.
free toward the end. He was like, I'm free, I'm free. And then he falls in the sewer. Dang it.
Oh.
So I don't know what it is. I just when I look back, I'm just like, yeah, it was cartoony, but I felt that it gelled really well. My voice is cracking quite a bit, so I'm not really sure. Because I would imagine they would go for a much more serious tone, being in Hunchback, so being a story that deals a lot with like religion, faith, and even goes into lest territory with Roland's Morales. So I'm just like, how are you gonna merge that with this? I mean, the animated one did it super well, but I feel like that's you need to get like a really good director because that's a balance I feel that could be easily
Oh
whacked
yeah,
out.
thrown off. Yeah.
You know, I,
Oof.
I guess it's kind of. I mean, I don't want to mention the Beauty and the Beast remake for the 300th time, but I don't know. Do you feel that's something they're gonna have to tackle, or that's gonna be
I think
quite a
I think
challenge?
they've had experience with it. I mean, I'd probably look towards something like the Tim Burton adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, and I know a lot of people have tons and tons of problems with the Alice in Wonderland remake, but I'm talking about looking at something like that purely in the sense of tone. Because it still managed to really get like a very whimsical feel
Mm-hmm.
while keeping in the heavy aspects of the story. I mean, I remember Doug Walker in his review points out how even like the Dormouse uses a needle to like pull out an eyeball from the Bandersnatch. And I think if they can incorporate things like that, which I think a lot of aspects like that worked really well for the Alice in Wonderland uh, adaptation by Tim Burton. I think if they incorporate stuff like that into the Hunchback of Notre Dame
Mm-hmm.
remake, there's a lot of good stuff that they can do there. I mean, especially looking at how, like you pointed out, there's the whole thing with religion. There's a whole thing with Frodo where, you have those, like, sexual undertones,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
which
Frollo.
could either, it could either be, like, really awkward because they're just like, oh, don't talk about the sex, don't talk about the sex, or very well as they manage to do it in a very tasteful way, you
Mm-hmm.
know. It's just a matter of, more than anything, the writing, I would guess, and hopefully
As well as
that
the
goes smoothly.
acting.
Yeah, the acting, I don't really feel like, as far as how they've been handling the live action remakes, that there's much of a problem in that sense. As far as the acting go, they seem to be really good with picking out actors. I mean, heck, I even really liked Emma Watson. Is She was Belle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked her performance, actually. It was one of the few things I actually enjoyed from the Beauty and the Beast remake. So as far as that goes, I think that could be really well. Uh, Again, it's just a matter of seeing how it ends up.
Yeah, although that being said, since Tim Burton, is already doing the Dumbo remake, I highly doubt Disney's gonna wheel him out for a third time. It's definitely his territory, but I don't think they're gonna get, Burton to do he did Alice, he did
And
Dumbo, and now he's gonna do Hunchback. I'm just like,
yeah, like, here's the thing. I feel like he would have been a lot more fitting for something like The Hunchback than Dumbo. I'm still here questioning why they gave him Dumbo.
well, Dumbo, could get, quite surreal in the world of the cirque. There's a lot. I don't know why. I'm kind of on the opposite end where I feel, Dumbo, is kind of more his territory than Hunchback.
Yeah, I mean, he's done work like that before. I mean, if you look at stuff like, I don't know, Frankenweenie, and I'm talking about like the old school short film here.
Yes, yeah, I've seen
Um,
the short film too.
yes, I think that could be mean to be saying, oh, well, he's used to very whimsical things, but I'd argue to say that that kind of like whimsy that he is able to work with isn't really present in something like Dumbo. Mainly because um, there are only certain key instances where that surrealism really comes into play. Most of it being just in that one scene with uh
The
with
Pink
the pink
Elephant.
elephant. And even then, it seems like that's going to be one of the instances that gets the least attention, at least from what the trailers
Yeah,
look
because
like.
to be fair, the Pink Elephant scene that's only in like the end of the second act of the original
Yeah,
Disney Dumbo film.
yeah. And then from there, the only other aspect that I'd really say manages to have any sense of surrealism or whimsy is is the is any of the scenes where he's like performing with the clowns, mainly the part where he's like actually going to show himself flying with the magic feather.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, that's not anywhere on the same level as something like Frankenweenie. It's like, and not to mention that the one other aspect that goes throughout the movie that he can work with is obviously not going to be worked with at all, which is the talking animals.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I'm sorry. I just went off there. Alright, back to Hunchback.
Yeah.
A lot of
Which
stuff
even
in
kind of makes
Hunchback
me
you can
wonder,
work
do you
with.
think they'll use the gargoyles in Hunchback, the remake?
I would hope they do, but I feel like they can possibly get away with not doing it. Like, it could probably still work without it, but I really hope they do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so weird because, like, when I think about, how the Disney remakes handled side characters, although granted, the enchanted objects did talk, even though the character design was ugly as sin. But I look at, like in Cinderella, the mice, in the remake, the mice didn't talk. And in the Dumbo remake, it seems like the animals aren't going to talk, even though I saw Timothy the mouse in the last trailer.
Yes, I was at least a little happy to see that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But but I don't know. I mean, just thinking again, I think technically speaking, it would be possible to use the gargoyles again. I guess it's just weird for me because part of the why I ask about the tone is because well, first of all, the gelling of the dark stuff with the more fun stuff. It sounds like a challenge for any director to pull off, especially in live action. The second thing I wanted to go to was I think about, Disney today, they really like to uphold themselves as this, like, family friendly, this really safe company, admittedly at times being a bit too safe. And and I was really concerned they were never going to make a Hunchback remake if they were going to keep this reputation up. Because I'm just wondering, do, Disney high brass today look at Hunchback and say, oh wow, you went really went really out there back in the day. I don't know if we want to do this again and make people think, what are you doing in Disney?
Uh, we do have to admit, though, there are those moments where Disney actually manages to take risks,
Mm-hmm.
and for the most part, those risks that they take are actually very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And even in instances where one would argue that it's not like Black Cauldron, I know I mentioned that in our first attempt at making this video. Um, a lot of people argue that it flopped because it did absolutely flop, but it ended up becoming one of those cult classics. So
Mm-hmm.
even in that sense, it wasn't necessarily you know a bad movie. It was just ahead of its time.
Yeah.
So so I feel like there's less of an issue there because it's something that whether it looks out there or not, the um the company is already used to it because they did it. They saw from beginning to end how it ended up. A lot of people enjoy the film, so there's a lot of potential for it to be marketed again,
Mm-hmm.
especially with how they like to work off of nostalgia. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. I know a lot of people feel like, oh, why are you working off of nostalgia? That's such a cheap move. But I mean, when done the right way, it can actually be really cool. Like
Yeah.
yeah, you just need to do it right.
And it's not just Disney that does works off a lot of nostalgia. I think of
Oh
that
yeah.
when I see companies coming out with sequels years and years later. Cough cough, Blade Runner 2049. Of course, and that movie especially relies a lot on people seeing the original and getting it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was kind of why I brought up, where is Disney as a company now, where they like to really sell, it's family friendly stuff. It kind of makes me a bit concerned that maybe they're gonna tone down a, Hunchback live action in movie because of that, or are they gonna go the route of? Because the thing about Hunchback is, while it's not a cult classic in the definition of something like Black Cauldron, like it was a modest success, but it's now kind of upheld as this like really really great movie. The last time Disney took really big risks, and it was a 2D animated movie, the original, with some really spectacular CG shots, especially I think of like when Quasimodo is saving Esmeralda in the climax of the movie, and the camera's spinning around, and when he lifts Esmeralda behind the rose window and shouts "Sanctuary." People see this as this kind of, this was when Disney took a big risk. This is where it is, and I feel maybe that's a big part of where the, I don't want to say backlash, but the concern comes from, in that, I
Yeah.
feel a lot of these people who are upset at Disney are basically saying, don't touch that movie, don't touch that movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I could agree with that sentiment. I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna be fully on the side where it's like, oh, don't touch it at all. Just leave it as it is.
Hmm.
Because I feel like in any instance, there's an opportunity to make something better.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just so difficult to work out something like that that I wouldn't doubt that some people would be extremely skeptical on a remake. Not to mention, we have a really, really, really disappointing sequel behind it.
Yeah. It's funny. This animation YouTuber Anime brought this up. Like when he did his retweet asking people their thoughts, he basically said, I want to know your thoughts. I mean, at worst, it could be as bad as Hunchback 2, which the rational part of me is saying there's no way. Like I think the Disney remakes are okay at best, but they're nowhere near as, at least the two I've seen, in as awful as Hunchback 2. Just there's just no way. Like I don't want to like go into like a Hunchback 2 tirade, because I feel like that's a topic for. Have you ever seen it, Gabby?
I've seen the trailer for it. And just looking at the trailer, I'm like, dear God, why?
Oh, that trailer is barely a taste of how awful that movie is. But I feel like one big aspect about Hunchback 2 and why I personally don't like it is you could tell they cut costs with the art style. Like the animation is nowhere near as breathtaking as the first Hunchbacks, and I'm just like, this is Disney. They have money, even though Hunchback, it's not like a super widely known of the Disney franchise. They have money to put some really amazing CG effects, even if it's live action recreations of the shots we saw in the first film. So it's just like, so that kind of takes away part of it, and I'm just like, there's no, like, it's just not, unless they really don't try with this remake at all.
Or they try the other way, where they try really hard to screw it up.
Mm, I don't know. Like,
Again, you have to try really hard to screw it up.
I don't know. Or maybe it could be a thing like that's not what Disney was intending, but somehow, because let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and they're trying really really hard, but it's to the point where it's just like, why did I just watch? That was, my head hurts just thinking about it.
I feel like at worst it's only going to be, let's say, underwhelming.
Yeah,
Because ultimately that's the worst I've seen as far as the live action remakes go. I know there is still an audience for it, as there is for nearly anything, but um, yeah, that's the worst I could see it getting.
yeah. I mean that same. I'm kind of in the same boat here. Even if it's only as good as the remakes that we've seen, it's at least a shrug. It's not like so awful that you want to go up to your movie screen and just punch a hole through it, you know.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah, I don't know. I personally can't picture unless they get like some really terrible like director or screenwriter. Like I guess part of me just hopes that like Disney acknowledges that maybe Hunchback did modestly. Like let me actually double check on box office. Maybe it did modestly when it first came out, but then again, there's a lot of fans of the animated Hunchback, so it's just like, ooh, we gotta uphold it, you know, to this audience, make sure that those people go see that movie, and if it's so super great, then those fans will go to, you know, people who may have never heard of this franchise and say, hey, this is really, really, really good. I'm not sure if you want to take your kids to it, but yeah, it's totally amazing. At least that's what I optimistically hope. Like I'm not naive. I know Disney is a business, and they're probably just thinking, yeah, people, you know, at least heard of Hunchback, and it is really regarded as this amazing movie in the animation community. But that's what we're that's what we're in it for.
Ultimately.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Jesus Christ. I mean, yeah, I might put up a Box Office Mojo screenshot, but it said that the animated one, on a budget of $100 million domestically, made just over $100 million, which that's not really good. But worldwide, it made just over $325 million. So I'm thinking maybe Disney is relying more on how nowadays people regard this as this really amazing movie, and they're using that as, you know, kind of this impetus to say, yeah, we can go ahead, there's a lot of fans. Although Blade Runner 2049 may tell you crazy fan base doesn't automatically equal box office.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah. And, you know, I can't even say that it's not like, you know, there's a Disney movie that has ever bombed, because to be fair, in recent years, they've bombed a couple times, to put it lightly. Solo.
Oof, oof. I didn't even watch it.
Yeah,
I was like,
and
nope,
I don't really want
nope.
to. It doesn't look very interesting. I mean, I honestly had high hopes for Solo when I heard that Lord and Miller were directing it, but as soon as they got thrown out the door, I'm just like, why do I even care anymore?
Ah, shucks.
So, yeah, I don't know. Is there really much more we could say about this remake with what little we have going for it? I mean,
Oh yeah. Um, I remember you like threw out the idea of having someone like Guillermo del Toro behind the Hunchback remake.
which my sis was the first one to bring that up, but since you have way more experience with Del Toro than me, right?
I mean, hmm.
Was that?
This is this is this is the sexy fish guy from
Oh, Shape of
Shape of
Water?
Water.
Wow, I honestly didn't recognize that Funko Pop.
I don't have the pleasure of owning the movie yet, but just to give you an idea, oh man, I've seen the good and I've seen the bad. I was there for Crimson Peak. I was there for Mama.
Mm, mm.
But I was also there for what? Pacific
Which
Rim.
I've seen Pacific Rim,
Yes, Pan's Labyrinth.
which I heard is
Uh,
like his magnum opus.
oh yes, apart from Shape of Water, like Shape of Water and Pan's Labyrinth have to be two of my all-time favorite movies ever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you guys have noticed, I have stuff from like let me see, right there. That's a Devilman Crybaby poster. One of the main things that interested me about Devilman was actually hearing how big of a fan Guillermo del Toro was.
Hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, I do have a bit of knowledge of Del Toro.
But
And
basically,
seeing how he is able to incorporate both dark and, I guess you could say, mystical aspects of storytelling,
hmm
I feel like something like a Hunchback would actually be way up his alley. Not to mention, like, if you look at the movie of Pan's Labyrinth, you have these two different worlds interacting, where you have the real world where a child is experiencing war
hmm
and the horrors of it,
hmm
you know, and the escapism that comes through along with it, you know. So looking at something like faith, religion, and the human condition,
hmm
that's like way up Del Toro's alley. You know, I could see him making a masterpiece with that. You know,
mm.
not to mention that talking about Shape of Water, one of the main influences that he had was the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I bring this up is because his main interest in this was essentially the same interest that one would have with the Hunchback of Notre Dame, where it's the monster who is just a misunderstood, creature who, just wants to be loved.
hmm
And you can see through a lot of the interest that Del Toro has that, that's something that he loves working off of. In fact, a lot of horror fans love that kind of stuff. Most of the people who you see that enjoy classic horror movies like Dracula, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, or even movies like Beauty and the Beast, Phantom of the Opera too. Uh, it's just that whole idea of, the misunderstood monster and the monster being made by man,
hmm
where we don't really have that in the Hunchback, but neither do you see that in something like Shape of Water. In fact, that was his whole concept, where it's like, give this guy the ending he deserves.
Mm.
And I just love to see what he does with Quasimodo
hmm
in his interpretation of the story.
Yeah. Although the idea behind at least the Disney version of Quasimodo is, as the character Clopin, the gypsy puppeteer said, who is the monster and who is the man, and of course the
Exactly.
twist is they say without say that Frollo, even though he's this high society judge, he's this really like vain, creepy guy, and you have Quasimodo who he looks deformed and strange, but he has a heart of gold. He's this super super kind person.
Exactly, which is why I think it's a character that Del Toro would just not only absolutely love working with,
Mm-hmm.
but would do an amazing job with it.
I
You
see.
know?
So yeah, definitely sounds like a really good idea. It's funny though because I honestly didn't want to like discuss who should direct because who knows, Disney might go out and get somebody we never heard of. They've gotten of course A-list directors to make the remakes before, like Tim Burton and Sam Raimi, for instance. But there've also been lesser known directors who took on projects like Maleficent and debatably, I say for the 150th time, the Beauty and the Beast remake. I mean, he has credits to his name, but it's not like he's not like a super well known person.
Oh yeah, and I don't think there'd be any problem if they ended up going that route anyway, because if it's going to be someone who they're just gonna pull out of the blue,
Mm-hmm.
that may actually be a great opportunity for them. So all power to them.
Yeah. Shoot, what is it? I mean, definitely better idea. I remember one of the first names I brought up is What if Ridley Scott took this on, and you just you were just like.
I remember looking because I didn't recognize the name off the bat, and then I searched it up to see what works he'd done. And I'm like, what the heck? What? I mean, it definitely would be interesting. I have no idea how that would turn out though.
Yeah, because I know, Steven, if he watches it, will, say The Martian, but he's seen a good chunk of Ridley's, what he considers his bad movies.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, but, I was just kind of discussing with my sis because, like, she's seen Gladiator, and, I was wondering, well, I've seen Blade Runner and Thelma and Louise, and yeah, I get that, Ridley has, this really dark style, which, of course works well in movies like Blade Runner. Even Thelma and Louise, something about the tone just felt really kind of dry and even a little menacing, I felt.
Yeah,
Yeah, even.
it's like I don't know. I always get like a hint of I don't know if it's nihilism from from his works. And
Mhm.
then the tone is not only dark, but like what's the word I'm looking for? Because just kind of like I guess I'd say almost chaotic. Where
Mm,
it's just kind of like anything goes.
I guess I get that.
Oh, kind of like just like because I mean, there's not necessarily. It's not like full on like let's say something like Mad Max. You
No,
know?
not that kind of chaos. I get
No,
what you
no,
mean.
but you still get kind of like that nihilistic sort of like gritty kind of taste as far as the writing goes for most of his movies, and I'm like, I don't know if Disney really wants that for one of their like family-oriented films.
Yeah. Not to mention, I don't know, maybe it's just I'm coming, like, when I look at movies like Blade Runner, which, I know, which, and I mean, dialogue in that movie, obviously, the credit goes to, the writers of that film, but it's just, you see patterns in terms of what kind of scripts, Ridley likes to use. And I'm just like, yeah, it might be a little too, kind of I don't know what. Now I'm like searching for a word
I
to
feel I
describe.
feel like he would need a lot more artistic liberty. You know,
Yeah.
like not have to worry so much about the family friendly aspect because he seems to go really out there with that kind of stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know Hunchback is heavy, but this is heavy as like in relation to Disney films,
Mm-hmm.
not outright heavy.
Yeah.
And you see is Ridley Scott's movie and you're just like whoa, and definitely I mean they were censoring a lot of stuff from like Gravity Falls when Alex Hirsch wanted to write a lot of stuff in, so poof, poof.
Yeah.
I don't see him having a lot of leeway. Mm-mm.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely wouldn't get the creative control that he would want. But it was just kind of a name that I was tossing around. So maybe they can get Del Toro. I haven't heard anything about a director again. Early days. So it's very tough to speculate on early days because anything can happen, and it certainly can go places that there ways that Disney definitely knows of, and we probably ourselves don't know. Again, aside from we're hearing that David Henry Hwang is working on it, and so are Alan Menken and Steven Schwartz. So, but that's what you do in the early stages of production. When you're a producer on this, you have to go find a good director, preferably somebody who can who really gets the tone of Hunchback down without making it seem super awkward, as you said. Yeah, I
Oh
mean,
yeah, oh yeah. Oof.
so yeah, so I don't know. I mean, that's all I could really question in terms of tone and the
Yeah,
songs and.
same for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I guess I could address a little in terms of how because when I first heard the news, I was absolutely excited. Like I was absolutely glowing with delight. It's like yay, Disney is finally working on something I really want them to work on. And I was listening to the soundtrack, and then when I saw the tweets, saying Disney don't do this. It did kind of level my expectation in terms of this a live action remake, especially of a movie like this, can go kind of mad. But the source material, I feel, both the book and the movie provides a plethora of possibilities. Like just in terms of possibilities of how this remake could even be something outstanding and good. Maybe not like better than the first film because admittedly, it sounds like a tough job to do.
Oh yeah, it
But I
definitely
definitely
does.
feel there's a lot of possibility. Just I hope they, kind of. I don't know if I'd say learned from their mistakes on the past remakes, but I just hope they executed a lot better.
Oh,
I'm sorry, what did you say, Gabby?
oh no, sorry, you cut off a bit there.
Well, I was basically just saying that that there's a lot of possibilities, and I hope it all goes well. Although, could you imagine the controversy that's gonna come if they stick to the source material pretty well?
I don't know, because either a lot of people would be like, "Woo, this is exactly what I wanted," or
Hmm.
they're gonna be like a bunch of people talking smack, like, "Hey, that's cheap. You just redid it, shot for shot."
Nah, just in terms of like when I think of Incredibles 2 and people are flipping out, it's like why are the characters are swearing and stuff? I'm just like, are people gonna go on Twitter and say why is Disney like talking about damnation and hell and even this? It's like this is too
I
much.
mean, there's the potential for that. I know there are a lot of people like that. I wouldn't worry about those people though.
Hmm. I don't know. I'm just
Usually when that happens it's because they did something right.
yeah.
So that would be an awesome you kind of like what's the word? Kind of like reception.
Hmm. Well, yeah, it'll at least be a sign of oh, they are sticking to this, or this is not watered down
Yes.
Hunchback.
Woo.
So yeah, I think until we at least get a trailer or hear more about this, I think I'm gonna call it here. So me personally, I'm excited. I think there's quite a few possibilities. I get the concerns, but I'm still willing to give this chance. Like I said on Twitter, I'd rather see a remake of this than something like Lilo and Stitch.
I could agree with that. I
Hmm.
could agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because when I look at Disney remakes now, the two that I've seen so far where there's some level of excitement are Hunchback and Mulan. Because when they were announcing a Mulan remake and word was coming out about that, I even had like my first photo editor was like, "Yeah, I really want to see this." But you get the point. It's
Oh
Mulan. They're
yeah.
fighting the Huns. They're prepping for training, and it's probably gonna be slapsticky. Although I hear the Mulan remake is going in some kind of strange directions, but you get the idea.
Oh yeah.
I guess some may even question because in terms of like Hunchback being this really dark movie, could Hunchback be potentially the first PG-13 remake,
Oh.
or is Mulan gonna be the
Oh.
first?
I mean, maybe that would be very promising, if I'm
Hmm.
honest. At least for me.
I don't know. It kind of sounds like a stunt to me, just in terms of we got PG-13. This is not we're going there. Welcome to hell. Oh, so I'm thinking maybe. I mean, there have been PG-13 Disney films in the past, even outside of like Star Wars and the MCU. Not that it's a big concern to me, just in terms of when you talk about Hunchback, it's like considered the really dark Disney movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's part of why I'd be at least a little interested in it as well, because I always have a bit of a taste for like dark or heavy stories.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where my interest mainly lies.
Yeah. Although, granted, it's not that, we liked Hunchback for the sake of being dark. It's more that, like, for me, like, in terms of how, they were able to handle it in the 1996 film, and how, they're able to make Fro this really creepy, intimidating guy. Just in terms of, you could really get into that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think for me was working off of the idea where Quasimodo is supposed to be this really grotesque thing to look at,
Mm-hmm.
and then you look at the design that they had for him in the film, and I mean, yes, you could still see how a lot of people would be like, "Oh, I don't want to touch it," no, no, no. But at the same time, they managed to keep that empathy one would have towards him intact in such a way that he becomes not only empathetic but endearing.
Exactly.
And that's really hard to do with concepts like that, because sometimes the film would just go straight out with the whole grotesque thing,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, uh, yeah, it just goes awry, and you lose that sense of empathy with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And the rendition Disney did of Hunchback just works off of that so well. Where they I'd say they nearly completely avoid that. I mean, sure, people can say like, oh, he's ugly, but
Mm-hmm.
not like, dear God, what is that?
Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking, what, you want to see Frontal Fly? No, no, no. Oh, I hope I didn't give Disney an idea. Although The
Oh
Fly was
God.
not a Disney movie, but I'm just ugh, forget what I said. Forget it. But I totally get you. And for me, it's mainly because they make Quasi such like an empathetic character, and Tom Hulce's acting. He played Quasimodo in the 1996 film. He plays them as this really soft-spoken, kind character. With his
Oh
insecurities, yes, but
yes.
he's very
Oh.
relatable in that kind of a sense.
Oh, definitely. Oh.
So, yeah. So, yeah, definitely covered quite a bit. So, do you think we could call it here?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so definitely excited. I know the concerns, but I just felt there's so many possibilities with this Disney live action film, maybe even more than others. That it just kind of keeps me excited. If it's terrible or if it's underwhelming, I'll be sure to say it. But so far, I'm definitely hyped. I just hope it goes well.
Oh, same.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
Right, so all right, we'll end off here. Thanks, Gab, for coming on. Hopefully,
Thanks for having
trailers.
me.
Yeah, hopefully, if trailers start coming out, we could check them out together, and hopefully, they won't be nearly as bad as that Kim Possible TV movie.
Oh God.
Yeah, I dare even bring that up again. So,
Oh,
yep. So ends off here. So thanks, Gabby, for coming on, and we'll see you later.
thank you for having me.
Right.
Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, be sure to like this Blood Moon Bobby video if you enjoyed it. Please share this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment. Be sure to ring the notification bell to be notified about my latest upload. Follow me on my social media pages at Blood Moon Bobby to find out about what I'll be covering next and for more of my opinions. Thanks for watching.